It's now the deadliest rampage in Thailand history. At least 37 people have died after a mass shooting and stabbing attack at a daycare center. Ian Lee has more details.
Shock and grief in Thailand after a man stormed a nursery with guns and a knife, killing more than 20 children. Among the dead, a 2-year-old and a pregnant teacher. The shooting happened north of Thailand's capital, Bangkok, in the Naklong district. Witnesses say the 34-year-old opened fire on the daycare, then realized his child wasn't there. Authorities say he headed for home, running a woman off the road and still firing from his car as he fled. Officials say he then killed his wife and child before taking his own life. Authorities identified the attacker as an ex-police officer who was fired last year for alleged drug use. The country's prime minister has ordered a fast-track investigation into how this happened. Ian Lee, CBS News.
And gun laws are strict in Thailand, where possession of an illegal firearm carries a prison sentence of up to 10 years. But police say the attacker legally purchased the gun used in today's killings. Well, Ukraine's army continues to make progress against its Russian invaders. They entered the Luhansk region for the first time since the war began. Back in Moscow, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed papers to annex 4 regions of Ukraine after its illegal referendum. And Russian officials are keeping the door open for further land grabs. And North Korea launched 2 more suspected ballistic missiles this morning. One landed in the Sea of Japan and the other in North Korea. It comes just 2 days after the North fired another missile that flew over Japan. Now, after that launch, the U.S. announced that the aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan would return to waters east of South Korea.